Welcome to episode 2 of my Art of the Haunt channel. So in the last video I made mention of a track and building a track in my backyard, and I know that's a big deal, a big jump from what I've been doing. So I thought what I would do this episode is maybe tell you a little bit of how I got to where I am right now and how I got to that decision. So back in 2015 my kids were at a middle school, and they were part of a haunted house that the middle school created. And in that haunted house, they needed someone to be a jack-in-the-box. So I agreed to be the jack-in-the-box, and so they built this big box. I sat in the box, and then my daughter was next to the box, and she had a little crank that she would crank, and we had kind of some music going on, jack-in-the-box type music. And the idea for that little prop was I would hide down in the box, and then she would say something that would trigger me because I couldn't see outside the box, or I didn't know when people were walking by. And so she would say something like, "Do you want to play with me?" or something like that as she's cranking this thing. And then that was my cue to wait a couple of seconds and then jump up and scare them as a jack-in-the-box. So that was back in 2015, and so that kind of, I've always been excited about Halloween, but getting to do that was like, man, this could be more fun if we did something at our house. So that year, we actually did do something at our house. We just did a little thing. There was no trail or anything, but we just had people come up to the front door, and then we decorated the front yard. We were hiding in the bushes. That was my first time, I think, that I used the Atmos effects effect, where I put up some material on one of my windows and then used a projector to project a zombie scene on the inside of the windows. So from the outside, and it looked like that you were looking at the zombies from outside, and you could see them in the house. So that was in 2015. In 2016, the teachers that had done the haunts at the school, they didn't want to do it that year. And so my wife was the Booster Club president at the school at the time, and so she said, "Hey, my husband would probably love to do it. Let me ask him." And so I said, yes, I definitely want to do it. So in that haunt, there was 2 classrooms separated with a long hallway. So we were able to create 8 different scenes, 2 in each classroom. We divided them in half. And then down the long hallway, we created 4 more sections for scenes. So we had a total of 8 scenes. And again, in the later video, I'll show you what I did for each one of those scenes. I don't have as many pictures as I'd like, but I can at least describe and show you some of the effects and things that we did for that haunt. That haunt was a blast. I was working with middle schoolers. We had probably 25 or 30 middle schoolers in that haunt, and it was awesome. We had a great time. They loved it. We did it for multiple days and ended up being a success. In 2016, we didn't do anything at our house. I was so busy building props and doing things for the school one that I didn't do anything in 2016. In 2017, a buddy of mine from work, we decided to do a big haunt in his front yard. And so in a later video, I'm going to show you how we built the plastic walls, how we built that haunt. I'll do a walkthrough with that haunt. And that was kind of our first we started planning that several months out. We came up with the system for hanging the black paper, or the black plastic, that I will show in a later video because it's very budget friendly. It's super easy to do. If the wind comes up, there's an easy way. You can take it down, wait for the wind to pass, and put it back up. It's not a lot of hassle. And so in a later video, we'll show that. And in that haunt, I think we had, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 actors in that haunt. And again, I'll do a walkthrough in a later video of that particular year. But that was kind of the first year where the bug really was starting to bite, and we were getting excited about doing some bigger haunt stuff. In 2018, I think we just got busy. We ended up doing a very small haunt at my house, in my front yard. We did use black plastic, and we're also very fond of using pop-ups, and then utilizing the pop-ups to not only create space in the pop-ups, but to create space like between pop-ups. And again, in a later video, I'll show you how we kind of did all that, and how we utilize the space between pop-ups to create additional scene areas and things like that. So that was just a small one, and it was fun. And we kind of were taking turns. We were going to my buddy's house, doing 1 year at his house, 1 year at my house, and so we kind of just bounced back and forth. In 2019, we decided to go big. So at my buddy's house, he had the ability to, we could take people down the side of his house, so they'd line up in front of his house. They could take people down the side of his house, weave through a haunt in the backyard, and then take people out the other side of his house. and then we even had props in the front yard. And so again, in a later video, I'll show you that haunt. It was a huge undertaking. We had wind the night before that really messed up everything. But we had it all back up and running, and so for Halloween, I mean, it was awesome. And I think in that one, he looked at a security camera and counted the people, and for us, it was pretty big. We had over 300 people in that haunt, and lots of props. We had over 20 actors, and so it was a lot of coordination, but we had a lot of fun, and we learned a lot from that one. Even though it took us a lot of time to put together, we built lots of props, and so I'll show you some of the props that we built leading up to that one, and share how I built some of those with you again in a later video. 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. 2020, COVID hit, and so we still wanted to do a little haunt by October. I mean, COVID hit back in, what was it, March, and so we still wanted to do some kind of haunt. So we went ahead in my front yard, we set up a little haunt with some pop-ups again in black plastic. We had a handful of actors, and I mean, we set up a decent haunt, but we just didn't get the people that year. We had made some rules that, you know, you absolutely have to wear a mask if you're going through the haunt, and then we made sure our actors kind of distanced themselves with the scares, and so it wasn't as effective, but we wanted to do something, and we did get some people coming through it, and they were glad that we did it, but it was definitely not as fun as when we have the long lines and for people waiting to get into our little haunts. In 2021, you know, I was a little reluctant to even do that year because after the COVID year, we weren't sure how many people we were going to get to visit our haunt, but we thought, oh, we'll try it, we'll see what happens. So in 2021, we did the same thing again. We built a haunt in the front yard using pop-ups and black plastic, and we tried to make it a little bigger than we had before when we built one in our front yard. And I think in that one we had, again, 8 or 9, maybe 10 actors. I have pictures and video walkthrough that I'll show you again in a later video, and kind of talk through some of the scares and some of the props we used. But it was fun, and we had a decent turnout in 2021. This last year, this is now 2022, but this last October, I wasn't going to do anything. My kids are old enough that they're all 3 of them are off in college, and so I wasn't really sure if we wanted to do anything or not. I do have one at home, but he's still going to college. And so we had a New York trip, and we didn't get home till Saturday evening, and Halloween was Monday night. And if you know anything about haunts, you need some time to set them up. You need a night or two before to set up the lighting to make sure you get it right. So Sunday afternoon, I was just going to set up some props in the front yard and sit out in a chair and hand out candy. And my son and I got talking, and as it usually goes, we ended up deciding we were going to build a haunt. So we threw together a haunt in 24 hours. And again, black plastic. We did enough times with pop-ups and black plastic that we kind of knew what to do. And so it was awesome. I mean, it was thrown together quickly, but we had 5 or 6 actors. We had a good time. It was small, but we had a line out. I mean, we had a line out the front thing. And I had multiple people come up to me this year, and they just said, man, we're so glad you do this. I mean, it's amazing. Keep doing it. You're like the highlight of our whole Halloween, that we always make sure that we come to your house. And so, you know, that made me feel good, but I still didn't know if I was going to do this anymore after this year. So after that, I sat down, I was putting away the props and stuff, and I was trying to decide, am I just going to get rid of all my props and sell them? Am I done with this? My kids are grown. What do I want to do? So I sat down with my wife and my son, and I said, hey, you know, are we doing this, or can I just sell my props and be done with this? And so both of them said, no, we still want to build something so that we can scare people. That's our favorite part, is we like to, you know, do those scares. So in those comments, they didn't realize it, but they kind of created a monster, excuse the pun. So I think it was the very next Saturday, I was out searching some videos on YouTube, and I came across John and Lynn from Chamber of Souls, and oh my goodness. So if you go check out their videos, and I'll put links of it in the description for this video, but John wanted to create something similar to the haunted house at Disneyland. And so he built a track out of wood and PVC in his backyard. And then his cart was electric, and it would power itself around the track, timed with visuals and everything. And so I came across that, I was watching it, and then even better, John took the time to then explain how he built the track, how he built his cart, and then some of his ideas behind some of his different scares and props. And my mind was going. I was going 100 miles an hour in my mind, thinking of what I could do. I didn't want to do exactly what he did, but it started giving me tons of ideas. So as I thought it through, I started putting pieces together of how could I do a track like his and do something similar. So first thing that came off is I did not want to motorize my track. My idea was I'm going to keep it budget friendly. And so for the first year anyway, we're going to try this. I'm going to build a track, and that part of this YouTube channel is to document kind of my process as I build this track and build my haunt and some of the ideas I have and what goes wrong, what goes right, and share that with you so that you know. But I'm going to take his idea for a track, and I've already come up with some changes. We're going to push our carts through the haunt. I reached out to John and I said, hey, is it too heavy? Can you push the carts through the haunt? And he mentioned that, sometimes theirs does break down, and when it does, they have to push their cart through the haunt. And he says it's not hard at all. It rolls really easy, and so not a big deal. Now, ask me again after this next Halloween, after I push the cart around the track multiple times for 1 or 2 evenings, if I still think this is a good idea. But anyway, we're going to try this. I think it'll work. I think we can rotate out actors taking turns and pushing our cart through the haunt. So why am I so excited about doing a track? Why is a track better than having people walk through the haunt? So there's a whole bunch of different reasons. Number one is, obviously, you reduce any tripping issues in the haunt. So you have them in a cart, they're just sitting there, you're on a track, you know exactly where it's going to go. I don't have to worry about people tripping in the dark, falling, messing with props. A lot of times we get people that will go in groups of 4 or 5. We would always break them up into groups, and we try to get them to smaller groups. But when they'd go through the haunt, like, they'd always be pushing one person in the front, and so that person would get all the scares. And then sometimes we got people get scared, and they would run backwards through the haunt or run forward through the haunt and just skip things. And so the beauty of a cart is now, as we push them through, and the way we're going to build our cart, they're not going to be able to see us behind them pushing them through. But we can control the speed that they go through. The cart will only hold maybe 2 adults and a child, or adult and a couple children, or whatever. So 3 people maybe max. Everybody's going to get the same scare. We can time how we do the scares so that everything plays out the way we want to, rather than people at the back not getting any scares and things like that. The other thing that we can do with a track, which is huge, is we can do cooler things with illusions or hallusions and different things like that, using screens and stuff like that, and then projecting onto them. You have to be careful with that when people are walking through. If it's an area they can touch or whatever, or reach out to or walk over to, that can be problematic. But now that they'll be in a car or a cart, it completely gives us control. The other thing, I had an idea. We have a tree in our backyard, and the way I designed our track is, you could have something fall out of the tree right in front of them and swing right in front of them, and you just make sure that whoever's pushing the cart, maybe even mark the track, stop right here. That body falls from the tree, fake body falls from the tree right in front of them or whatever. You're not going to hit them. They're in the cart, and so it just gives you a lot more control over your environment. We're still going to use black plastic. We're still going to build things just like we do with the walkthrough one. The only difference is now they'll be sitting in this cart and we can control it. And just like John over at Chamber of Souls, 2021 was amazing for what he built, and then 2022, it's just on steroids. He's in a whole nother dimension. I have no illusion that I'm going to keep up with the stuff he's doing with animatronics and triggering them and things like that. Their stuff is absolutely first class, amazing, and can compete with some of the best stuff out there. So again, check out their link in the description. Chamber of Souls on YouTube. They're also on Instagram. And John and Lynn, their stuff is amazing. It is unbelievable. But I can borrow from pieces of that and do what'll be budget friendly for me, what will fit in my backyard. And I know my neighborhood, they are going to go crazy. They are going to love this. One other thing that is super helpful for me is I have some ideas for using total blackness or total darkness as for parts of the ride, which you can't do when you're having people walk through. It's just too much of a risk that someone's going to fall or they're going to mess up something. So I'd like to start out the ride that the very first thing that happens is the lights go out and then we take off. And so already you're building up tension because the lights are out, it's dark, and then you start off with the haunt. So anyway, I'm going to document all this on YouTube. I'm going to show you kind of what I've taken from John and what I'm going to build on myself. John, I know, watches these videos, so thank you, John and Lynn, for everything you do and for letting me mention your channel and for giving me the ideas. And I'm going to try to build on that and for myself of what I want to do in my haunts and come up with a cool track. I'll document it all for you to see, take you along on the journey. I'll probably turn on the comments for my videos so that if you guys have ideas or suggestions, then I would love to hear those. I love the haunt community. I love doing the haunting stuff, and man, am I looking forward to Halloween of 2023. So until the next episode, we'll see you later. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It helps me out. We will see you on the next episode. Thanks.